Let's move on to the onboarding. So here's just a little fun. Who do you think's the salesperson here on the slide? Is it the money hungry white male or the friendly, helpful young woman? Do you think it's the sleazy cigar smoker or the high IQ, thoughtful academic? Do you think it's the devil or the doctor? Who is the salesperson? Right. So you always get to chuckle when I go in the audiences. But what's crazy? Do a Google search for salesperson in Google Images. All three photos on the left show up. None of the ones on the right. That is screwed up. Like, we created this field, whatever, like hundreds of years ago, that is intended to represent our brands and companies out in the marketplace, talk to our future customers, and they're known to be money hungry, sleazy devils. And shouldn't they be more, helpful thought leaders and really have our best interest in mind in terms of diagnosing problems and helping us with solutions? And the question is, like, is now the time where that changes? I mean, I showed you some statistical analysis in the last section that I think it is. And, when you think about it, as a buyer in the 80s and 90s, you actually had to talk to a salesperson to buy a product, most of them. You just had to do it. And they abuse that context in many cases. And today you don't. You can be home on Saturday night in your bunny slippers and have a problem that you research in Google or social media, and you can find who's out there. You can find their ratings. You can sometimes try it, and sometimes you can just buy it right there. So isn't sales just dead? I mean, I don't think it's dead. Some of it is, but it certainly is going to require a different seller to succeed. And so one of the starting points when I work with companies and the stuff that we did at HubSpot is, to think about developing your sales playbook from the outside in as opposed to the inside out. So what I mean by that is, instead of the inside out, which is shown on the left side, which is, oh, hey, we built this product and we built it for CFOs in mid-market companies, and it does X, Y, Z, and it has these awesome widgets, and let's build a website that tells everybody about it, and then let's train a sales team to cold call everyone that's in our supposed target market about our cool features. Like, a lot of people do that, and that is an old school way that's not aligned with the empowered buyer. Versus, as you're thinking about training your sales team, you can start with the buyer and their lens and how they perceive the world, and how we as salespeople can support them with that education and process, and how we as salespeople can help them understand how our product solves their problems. Think about it. What % of your sales training is about your product versus your buyer? That's usually way off. Most of sales training should be about the buyer, not the product. In fact, I think I've seen research that shows the more product training you do in your sales process, the less effective your salespeople are, because they feel like they need to show all the advanced features, and they don't. It's about uncovering problems. In fact, we have like industry terms for this: show up and throw up, or alligator selling, big mouth, little ears, right? There's a reason why, we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. So there's you choose your line, but it's so prevalent that we've got classifications for this stuff. In fact, finally, we've got awesome data on it. I don't know if you've seen Gone.io, the link's at the bottom here, a great company out of San Francisco. They're kind of doing like AI, BI for sales calls. And so they've got this way to automatically listens to sales calls and categorizes it by semantics and who's talking, et cetera. So this was a simple study done against 500,000 sales calls over 10,000 companies. And all they looked at was, in a discovery call, who talked more, the rep or the buyer? And they said they categorized into top reps and bottom reps. For bottom reps, they talk 72% of the time in a discovery call. Top reps, 46%. 500,000 sales calls. Right? So it's just, the more we can understand the buyer. Here was their analysis on what the call looked like. A good call. The top calls was a little bit of rapport building, most of it on 3 or 4 business issues, not your product, business issues that the buyer's having, and then relevant next steps. That was a good discovery call, right? So a framework to think about here that's simple is like, okay, train them on a buyer. What do you mean? Start with the buyer journey. Here's a really simple one. There's a bunch of them out there. Pick one, and your sellers need to understand this. How do they become aware of, what problems are they trying to solve? What goals are they trying to pursue? What have they tried in the past? What major categories of solutions do they try? When they're going to make a decision, how will they do it? The cheapest, the fastest, the one that's been around the most, and how do they measure success? So here's a company, Tiny Pulse, that I'm on the board of, that does a quick little pin that says to your employees every week, it's, are you happy in your job, 1 to 10? Why? So it's just like a way to quantify culture, right? And so their customers, their great customers, are solving a variety of issues. Like some of them have a bad culture. Some of them have a great culture and they just want to maintain it. Some of them have high turnover, and some of them have, want to solve it with a pizza party or a consultant. Some of them want to use some of them want to use technology, but they want to use the cheap one or the one that's like most robust or the simple one. And then here's different ways so this is just a blueprint. Like my first job as a seller is figure out where the buyer is on this chart. Do they have high turnover and they think, well, I want to sell it through a pizza party, solve it for the pizza party? Or do they have low productivity and they want to buy technology, but they want to buy the cheapest one? I can sell both those buyers, but way differently. My pitch is way different. And I'm not lying. It's just their perspective. So that's what we have to do in our training, is think more about the buyer training and less about the selling. And the other way that we did this was at HubSpot, most of our training was about them going through the pain of inbound marketing. So all of them set up their own blog, their own website, published a bunch of articles, posted in social media, set up landing pages, converted leads, analyzed the whole thing, sent email messages, all using the HubSpot platform. So they felt the pain. They all ranked in Google, developed a social following, and by the time they got on the phone with their first prospect, they could empathize with the concerns that they had of trying this new strategy, right? So there's, hopefully some ideas around the training, and, really, think twice about how much product training you're doing, and are you doing enough buyer training, and why today that is so much more important. So